It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday. Zelda just left. Zelda loves the new mic stand. She loves it. She gets up here and she rubs against it and all this stuff. I think it sounded okay on It's Not Therapy this week. I'm super excited It's Not Therapy this week because Gila Munster, the organizer of the it's a Jewish drag, it's a Hanukkah drag show, I call it, but it's actually an LGBTQ plus variety show. But I sponsored it and Gila's running it and it sounds like it's going to be amazing. She was so great. And I'm super stoked about it. GilaMunster.com. Gila, like the monster, cheese, Munster.com. If you're interested in it, you're in a Toronto area. So this week there were Wednesday was fun and that made me happy because I'm always trepidatious going back to gaming content because gaming is my happy place, and when people start calling me a terrible person over gaming, it just compounds with people calling me a terrible person over all these other things. And I'm getting called a terrible person on so many accounts lately that I'm really glad this didn't go to shit. And it's almost like some people don't realize they are entering into you're a terrible person territory with some of the stuff they say. And that makes me more weirded out because why would the person not think that someone who would do this is a terrible person? Many pass to God, right? Apologies to atheists. Many pass to God or away from God, or God does not exist, and pick your endpoint, right? Okay, so let's get into, I haven't done the help support this channel, but I'm really tired, so I will try to make this as organized as possible, but I'm not only tired, I'm just socially overwhelmed. There were a lot of amazing breakthroughs this week with clients. And what I want to be doing right now is sitting with that and going, yay, because I'm so happy for them and so proud of them. But I have to do this because content. So we're going to do the help support this channel. And hopefully I'll get through this. Pray for me. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session, Leanna Care Sessions, for someone who can use but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK, or the GoFundMe link, which will be changing. It's interesting. There seems to be interest in content for men, like discussion groups around male-oriented content, but what I'm hearing from the groups is nobody's terribly interested in men's only spaces. And a couple of non-binary people are like, can I go? And it's like, yeah. But so it looks like that's going to be the pivot. We're still going to be doing the men's groups, but if anybody who wants to show up and learn, you're welcome. That's what we'll do. But let's start with Manly Monday, because that one, somebody said, I'll just start with this comment. This turns very fun, the don't die on your white horse video, when both parties are very conflict averse and really struggle with telling things to each other. I want to say I was better at it than her, but I did try to spare her feelings more than I probably should have. She already lacked confidence, and I didn't want to hurt her with saying anything was wrong there. I think now that this relationship has always been doomed to fail, and we've only been trying to delay the inevitable, hiding the cracks from each other and themselves. This is a very timely video. I literally woke up from another nightmare about that relationship, feeling a lot of tangled emotions I still can't get over with. It's nice to have a video already waiting for me. No relationship is doomed. I want to make that clear. But both parties have to be willing to work it out, and both parties have to be willing to risk. And it's when one or both parties is no longer willing to risk because they are so terrified of getting hurt that it's not going to work. And that doesn't mean there aren't good reasons you're terrified, because, you know, you could be with somebody who is absolutely terrible at handling real emotions. And, you know, a relationship failing is not a personal failure. Two good people can just not be good for each other. And it's really better to call that before you end up hating each other. Some people are great friends and terrible as romantic partners. And I hate the term more than friends, because a romantic relationship is different from a platonic friendship. It is not better. You know, it is not worse. It's a completely different kind of relationship. The same way the relationship with your parents and your children are not the same. You know, family relations are not the same as friends, are not the same as romantic partners. They're all important that the ones you have be healthy. And you do not need, you know, blood relatives. You do not need a romantic relationship every moment in your life. But friends, you do need people who understand you. And I think that the way we depict romantic relationship as this person who is your everything is so disastrous, because the longer you're with someone, the more you recognize that there are elements, at least temporarily, where you have to be there for your partner, which means, and they may not necessarily be good at being there for you, or they can't be right now. And you need friends to talk to about that, who will, you know, not judge your partner negatively, and not betray the confidence. And so many people, I notice it's very different in men's groups and women's groups, and this may be just the ones I'm a part of, but like I said before, I find that when a bunch of women get together, guaranteed the topic turns to something awful their partner did. Oh my God, they're ranting 3 martinis in. Whereas men's group, I find men are very hesitant. And the minute they say their partner did something that hurt them, it's, you know, don't get me wrong, I love her and she's great. And like, it's this, and and this is sort of a kind of heteronormative, because I realize that my gay friends are more balanced. So maybe it's a heteronormative thing, which indicates it's probably not healthy. And this is another cool comment. Personally, I would say to reject the white horse. Don't fall off it. Don't die on it. Just either take it elsewhere or willingly get off and walk away. It is more self-care than anything else. This is the asshole I prefer to be right now. All right. But if someone, male or female, gets themselves into a sticky situation carelessly, well, the signs were there. They were warned, yet they still did what they should not have done. It is their fault. Don't help them. There's a good chance that they will drag you down with them. Or never learn from their poor choices. The asshole I probably am takes delight in watching those suffer from the consequence of bad actions, terrible decisions that hurt me in the process. As kids, we are supposed to be taught simple lessons to correct bad behavior and decision making. The steps are something along the lines of, this is wrong, this is why it's wrong, this is how you correct yourself moving forward. And I like the mantra I practice. I thought it while I was recording the video, but I didn't say it because I thought that, you know, it's sensitive and I didn't want to hit a button too badly. But if you're a fan of Terry Pratchett, you know, death rides a white horse. So, but some guys don't want to reject the white horse. They want to be someone's hero. And while I am definitely more in villain category, not by choice, it's just where the world put me. So I really agree with this commenter. that, you know, if they were warned and they still did it, I'd say don't bail them out. Not don't help them, but don't bail them out. Because if you're always there to bail them out, they're never going to learn. But some people, that's not how they want to live. That's not how they want to be. And you guys are more heroic. And, you know, it may just be that you have to deal with fewer people and take less abuse on a given week. But still, we love you guys, which is why if you want the white horse, have the white horse. Just don't die on the white horse. I do think that one of the things when we talk about this stuff is that people talk like there's one right way to be. And we know there are different personality traits. We know there are different types of personalities. There's neurodivergencies. There's mental illnesses that you can manage. And everybody's way, you know, I say, and that's not therapy. You're crazy is only a problem if it's hurting you. Because if somebody thinks something's crazy, but it's making you feel good and affirmed and validated, keep doing it. Fuck normal. Yeah, I don't do normal. Whenever somebody asks me, is this normal? I'm like, I am not somebody who is here to teach you to be normal. I don't know how to be normal. I don't even know what normal is. I honestly think normal's up there with perfect. It's a lie. There are norms, but they're artificial. And so, I do agree that there is really something to that. Don't let people drag you down with you. Now, the second part of the comment, this was one of those comments that, yes, this is the week for this comment. This idea, as kids, we're supposed to be taught simple lessons to correct bad behavior and decision making. The steps are something along the lines of, this is wrong, this is why it's wrong, this is how you correct yourself moving forward. And ideally, yeah. But that comes from being raised in a supportive environment that modeled how to admit mistakes graciously and how to correct mistakes. If people have been raised in an environment where no one admitted mistakes and everyone projected and deflected, they don't know how to do that. And I've been seeing so many people who don't know how to do that. And I feel really bad for them that they've reached adulthood and don't have that skill, because they're good people otherwise, but they do not know how to handle fucking up. And it's terrible that people have to learn that in adulthood, but you do have to learn. And, you know, if you don't have the bad person, did a bad thing separation, you know, good people can do bad things. Occasionally a bad person does a good thing, albeit for selfish reasons. Bad person does not equal bad thing. Bad thing does not equal bad person, right? And that seems so simple, but people complicate it all the time. If somebody who has screwed you over so many times does one good thing, that does not mean they deserve your trust. Every narcissist on the planet knows how to love bomb someone to get them back into the fold where they can be abused and manipulated again. Narcissists are the absolute best about that. This is me foreshadowing my why some Asterian fangirls are fucking creepy video. Yes, that's coming either this week or next. Sorry, next week or the week after, because I have strong feelings about that. I think we do have to start calling out more creepy behavior in women. And I don't know what to do. To do like a subsection of Manly Monday, she's creepy if, or do something, I don't know. Thoughts, suggestions, I'm interested. Um, but I want to read one comment. Speaking of gaming and Baldur's Gate 3, got this really great comment. I mean, a lot of people talked about that idea of predictable choice, and some people liked choosing into a void. And this is why, you know, when I talk about philosophies of game design, the thing I love about games, and I think I said this in the video, I've said this a ton of times, so I don't remember if I said it on Wednesday, but we haven't got this all figured out yet. And this is why I love talking about this stuff, to get different perspectives on it, because we're still, there's so many degrees of complexity. And I think one of the things that it was the same, Baldur's Gate 3 is having the same feeling that The Witcher 3 gave me, was that they clearly put their heart and souls into this, and it's so big. Can we not reward bigger is better? Because I remember people, when The Witcher 3 came up, this is what all games should be. And I'm like, no, they crunched. No. I loved that game. I would rather a smaller game and no crunch. You know? That, because big is not necessarily better. I go back to Ghost of Tsushima. Apparently Mario Wonder is fairly short, and that makes me more interested in Mario Wonder, because oh my god, after all, like, I was showing somebody this, I have a physical stack of shame: Assassin's Creed Mirage, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Jedi Fallen Order. I don't even have a physical copy of Spider-Man 2 yet. Holy shit, like, I am going to be playing the games that came out now. I want to try Cyberpunk again. I'm going to be playing the games that came out this quarter until 2025. It's just so much, and a few shorter games. And I'm not saying don't make really long games. I'm saying that there is a place for shorter, tighter experience that just... Tsushima was so polished. Everything about it was so polished, as opposed to these cumbersome, messy things we've got coming out right now. I'm still... My Alan Wake 2 stuff is going to be interesting to see how people react, because my views on that game are not simple. But getting into the idea of choice, it said, I'll highlight and expand on something you touched on only briefly. For a real choice, a fair choice, you need to have a high measure of predictability as to what the choice does. It doesn't have to be spelled out. It doesn't have to be obvious, but an observant player who actually pays attention to the hints you give should get at least a good idea of what happens for each choice. If you don't do this, then your choice isn't actually a choice. It just looks like one. Imagine you're at a fork with path A and path B, but you know nothing about either path. You just have to pick. You're not really making a choice here. You're just picking one at random. Of course, choices can have consequences you didn't expect, but at least for everything major, you should be able to predict it, or else it just feels random and pointless. In hindsight, you should be able to say, I could have seen this coming. Skilled foreshadowing is when you give the player hints that they may not understand or pick up on at the same time, but makes sense in the end. For example, when there's a character who straight up tells you the consequence of each choice and they're wrong, there has to be something that hints to you this character may be mistaken or lying. Even if it's not the character itself, but an overall theme of trust no one, there has to be something. We don't like just being straight up lied to by the writers themselves. Recommended Expeditions Rome. I'm going to check that out because that was a really intelligent comment. And this is where I start going, you have to make a choice when you first start making a game. Are you making a game as an escape on life, or are you making a game that's an enrichment of life? And more I'm interested in games that teach people how to make choices and accept consequences of choices. And I do think there are, it's torn because, in Baldur's Gate 3 is an example of there are some characters who don't know themselves. So they do say something they end up not following through on, but they do lie. They also lie to themselves. So they're not deliberately lying to you. They just don't know what they want. And I thought some moments like that were cool. But as the commenter said, those were moments where, in hindsight, it's like, yeah, they didn't know what they wanted. And that character is not Shadowheart. That Why Shadowheart Sucks video is coming as well. Start to finish, that character sucks. I don't care what anybody... And it's not whether you like the character. The character is calibrated to be likable. But I will save the deep dive in a video where, if people don't want spoilers, they won't stumble upon them. But yeah, there has to be and choice versus appearance of choice is a huge thing in games. I mean, the Stanley Parable unpacked that. I do think that there is a place for, because in life we do often have to make a discussion. We have to make choices without having all the information a lot of the time, especially with what I do. There were a few moments. The reason this week was so exhausting but so great is that when you're working with a particular condition psychologically, you get pointers where if this follows this pattern, there should be something here. And there were a few times this week where that worked. And the first time that happened, I scared the poor client because I just went, yes! Like, I was so freaking excited. And I'm sorry. That was just, like, I said, that's exactly what we want, to complete that blank. And so the next two clients, when that happened, I was like, I'm so happy. I didn't yell that time, but there are things that are indicative of fragmenting further, and then there are things that are indicative of healing. And when you get that, okay, if they're going in the right direction, we should land here, and we land here perfectly, but sometimes it doesn't, because people are really complex. And there are some times you can do everything right. And I mean, the example of a character that you don't get a happy ending, and I think it's right. You kind of do an expansion, but it's Morrigan in Dragon Age Origins. A romance with Morrigan, it's never going to be the white picket fence happy ending. In fact, none of the romances in Dragon Age Origins last, and that's a fucking bummer. But that became a thing with Dragon Age. If you actually tracked, if the human noble marries Alistair, they're miserable. He's miserable. And that was like, oh, fuck, guys. Like, oh, why can't you make any of them happy? But yeah, they do, you go your separate ways with pretty much all of them. And that's depressing. And it did, I'm glad more people are coming along to my way of thinking on Inquisition. There was so many elements that are unsatisfying. And I don't mean to slam Inquisition fans on that one. For a lot of people, it was their first RPG of that kind, and therefore they loved it. Some of us who are comparing it to games like, Planescape Torment, that was an example of a game with really, really good characters. And every single one was solid. There was like a quality control. And I am also planning a Baldur's Gate 3 video about companion characters, worst to best or best to worst or whatever, or best characters, worst characters. I just have to I just have to actually have Minthara in the party. And yesterday they patched the game so the knockout exploit works. You can meet Minthara, Moonrise Towers, and without, doing a certain, and I'm like, okay, because I was really struggling with whether in my second playthrough I was just gonna break the character to get that, and because I like to know what the fuck I'm talking about. I like to actually play the games to have opinions. But you get massive amounts of traffic by having a hot take right off the bat that's totally uninformed, but that's when everybody's watching, and so they're like, hey, I'm yelling you. I don't want to do that. I actually want to make sense. So that's the last character. And there's a couple other angles I want to see on some of the other characters. No, like I said, I really warmed to Gale. But the problem I was having with this playthrough is my second time I'm playing a Dark Urge Cleric of Mystra. And so I'm playing it, okay, here's this guy who wants to be good and godly, but he got this horrible thing inside him. And it's interesting because the Dark Urge is really validating, because inner moments are very Dark Urgy for me. And that was something I had to accept. It's like, you can have these thoughts and you don't have to do anything about them. And anybody who thought crimes you, it's not that they can see into your skull. It's not that they can read your mind. It's they are fishing. And that to me is, bad people territory. Going back to that thing I said about some people just don't know how to talk to each other. And I do think there is a place in a game, but the game has to be designed specifically for this purpose. That even if you make a choice, and this is why alignments and good runs and bad runs are it's so important to be very specific in your design. You can make a choice and it doesn't go the way you wanted. It doesn't mean it was the wrong choice. There are so many, as one client who's into Star Trek, I felt very validated by this comment that he saw, a thing where, once again, somebody was telling me I did bad, so bad. And then, after criticizing me for hours, said, this isn't a bad Leanna thing. And it's like, you're fucking kidding me, right? You've been criticizing me for hours. And it was cascading. And the guy said it was a Kobayashi Maru. Like, the minute people put you in that position, you had to pick how you were going to fail. And, the fact that he prefaced it that way meant the discussion we had about alternatives to handle it in future was done in a sort of a cone of understanding. That, yeah, this isn't a perfect solution. There may be no better way to handle these things. It's worth seeing if there is, and tweaking it. And I mean, this particular guy, he went from being very, very quiet. And so, and the more he talks, the more I see the wisdom there. And it's like, the world needs more of this guy. He needs to talk more because he's very understanding and he's very compassionate. And, that's awesome. And it is sometimes that, especially when it comes to, I've been dealing with a lot of people who were ghosted of late, and ghosting is so, it is a unique bit of psychological warfare. It is always better to let someone know what they did. And I get why people don't do it. They don't want somebody to freak out. Had it happen to me this week. But it's the sort of thing of, I prepare myself. I have to tell this person what they did wrong. They are probably not going to take it well. They are probably going to get angry, rage out, call me every name in the book, and blame the whole thing on me. And that is exactly what they did. But I still told them the truth, that their behavior was not acceptable and that there were consequences for that, that there were certain things that I could not do with them anymore because they were making false accusations, and every conversation I have with them now must be recorded because they keep saying things didn't happen that did, and claim they didn't know things that, look right at them. And okay, going forward, we understand this, right? Yeah. Oh, you didn't tell me. I didn't know. I don't remember. Can't. It's not a question of want to. Can't. There are certain things with the things I do that that's the sort of thing that the other commenter said. You saw the warning signs. If you go ahead anyway, it's your own damn fault. Other things, it isn't your fault. You were lied to. And I do think it's okay to put in stories being lied to, as long as the fallout makes the player feel validated. And I think that was the thing that I was circling around, and this commenter was circling around, and he's right, I'm right, but we're incomplete. That games are not life. Games can teach us how to handle the tough stuff in life. And that interactivity, the choice can help. Practicing making difficult choices is, it's nice to be able to practice. And I mean, the thing for me about Baldur's Gate 3, and like I said, this is just personally, being in no-win situations where a whole bunch of people are mad at me and don't give a shit about why I did what I did, that's a big part of that game, and it's too much like real life. So I didn't enjoy those parts at all. That doesn't mean it's not a perfectly good game. It's just that I need things that allow me to escape that for a while. And that's, why I'm dissecting this thing, because yes, I would love games that, yes, I could be right. But one of the things I had to work on is sometimes I can do everything right and people still hate my guts. And it happens all the time. And there's nothing I can do about it. And I refuse to walk around miserable because people judged me by the absolute worst metric that was not confirmed. I can't control that about them. And I do think if we could find a way to validate that everybody hates you, but they're wrong. If you can do that in a game, that's cool. That helps a lot. Or sometimes, like, you were wrong, and what's the correct way to make it right? And that's not necessarily a predictable outcome, but it is a validating one. There's more ways. Like, I think the alternative is that it doesn't have to be predictable if there's a way to fix it. And that can be satisfying as well. And it really is that idea of validating. You have to decide going in whether you're going to make a game that's just nihilistic and fuck the world, and that's your philosophy on the human condition, or whether you're going to make a game that states, no, being a good person does matter. And I'll land on another comment somebody made based on that. So, it says the Gobblers in Baldur's Gate 3 are a good example of what I call curl evil. By curl evil, I am the type of evil that punches down for the sake of punching, for example, hurting the baby owlbear. This type of evil is appealing if you're being an edgelord, but that gets old real quick. There's a reason why most edgelords are teenagers. So trying to play as the edgelord side with the goblins can be fun for a little bit, but it can't really be sustaining for a story. The type of evil that can be sustained an entire story is what I call magnificent evil. I define magnificent evil as the type of evil where you can see that the evil may have a point and gets you to question what is good and what is evil, and why this is evil can sustain a story, because one, when you punch down, it feels justified. Two, it's challenging in the sense that you're thinking in terms of great, i.e., are you a good person doing bad things, or are you just evil trying to soothe your conscience? Lastly, bad guys are cool, so if you play one, you get to be the extra villain that you see all those memes about. As someone who is that person in real life, that's probably why I don't want to play that in a game. You know, it's just, often in life you are cast as the villain, and all you can do is go, and I mean, that's why I got so attached to Loki in the MCU, because I didn't really think he was a bad guy. He was a sad guy. He did some horrible things, but all he wanted was his dad's approval, and then he got mind controlled, and he didn't do anything worse than a lot of the Avengers did. He certainly killed fewer people than Tony Stark did in his life, because Tony Stark made weapons. And the idea of bad guy, good guy got so mushed that Disney made 2 seasons of Fix Fic on Disney Plus and stumbled around. But I ended up going, like, my mantra when I get painted as the villain again is, okay, I'm the bad guy and everybody's gonna hate me, but I've been in the most movies. 'Cause everybody loves a good villain. No, in real life they really don't, but we're there. We have a role. It's, quite frankly, better than being insignificant. And that's a huge cope, because no, it's not. That is an emotional response. It makes no metaphysical sense. But it makes me feel better at the time when I've sat with something, gone, I didn't do anything wrong there. Everything I did had good intents. There were really no real negative consequences. People just didn't like it. And hurt feelings are not harm. Sometimes somebody has to get their feelings hurt in the short term so they don't self-destruct in the long term. And that's that thing going back to the very beginning when the person was saying, they said don't help them, but I said don't bail them out. Because it's better they suffer smaller consequences to legitimately bad behavior early than enable them so that when there finally are consequences, they're so far gone they cannot fix it. So this is a really good conversation, guys. Great week. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for some of you who can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK, or the GoFundMe. We're coming up at the beginning of the month, so Discord invites are going to go out like next week. Yeah, next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday. So now's a good time to plunk some money in, get an invite to the Discord. And thanks for watching, and I can't find. Oh, I almost made it through without a colossal fuck up. There we go. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend.